Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is episode 135 of the Audible Farm podcast, and this episode is brought to you by Couchtown Coffee. I just got done drinking a cup of Couchtown coffee. It's my favorite coffee, and I bet if you try it out, it might be one of your favorite coffees too. One of the best parts about Couchtown Coffee is all of the coffee that's roasted there is roasted specifically for the order. So if you make an order, they're roasting coffee for you. Not just for everybody and then hoping they sell it. No, they're roasting it fresh specifically for you. Then they'll ship it to your house. And then you can just grind it up and drink it at your leisure. Go to couchtowncoffee.com, find a coffee you like, make an order, and let them know Audible Farm sent you when you make your order, and they will give you 20% off. It's that easy. And why are they giving you 20% off? Because Couchtown Coffee is that awesome. They support music, and so do we. So check them out, couchtowncoffee.com. This episode, I'm sitting down with James Tyler of Late Street. James and I sat down. We sat and talked for a little bit. On the beginning of this one, I actually ended up kind of biffing how I was recording this. We missed a couple minutes of the first part of this, so we restarted it, and I think we did pretty good. If you're looking for the missing couple minutes, I might throw them on the Patreon page, so check that out. But one of the cool parts about this episode is we talk about all sorts of cool stuff that James has been doing. He's been working really hard with Late Street and everything else that he's got going on. Scroll down below and check out the links. Another cool part about this episode is that Cain was sitting off camera for a while, and then we're like, get over here and talk. So he kind of sits in and kind of gives us a little bit of his thoughts on some certain things that we talk about too. So it's really cool. This is James Tyler with Cain, both of Late Street Music. So check it out. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode because I had a blast talking to these guys.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
But I'm sitting down with James Tyler. Holy cow, I almost don't want to go over all this again, but you're a rapper. We discussed that. Maybe not rapper, maybe hip-hop artist, but you wear many hats. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go back in time here. Back in time, you played music.
Quick recap, yeah. So
with instruments, not necessarily just being a hip-hop artist.
So yeah. Coming from the bands back in the teenage days, coming from ADHD, the Skull did. There's the young bands playing teenagers. That's definitely where it all stemmed from, and it's where all my friends come from. Why I got into rap is anybody's guess. It doesn't make a lot of sense, But here I am, and I grew up playing all the punk shows as a rapper, and probably got laughed at the very beginning, for a long time. And it's to go back to sitting around all these instruments. The other half of Late Street, Cain. This is his primary studio, Nonchalant Studios, and we each function out of our own, but primarily here. And I do more of the production. I'm over here on the boards and the engineering, and he's over here really, really playing the music. And that's why I don't call myself a musician.
Well, I mean, don't sell yourself short, though. I mean, you're still doing stuff, and that's something else when you said you're like over here on the boards doing stuff. I mean, like you got a MIDI keyboard over here, so you're doing something with music stuff.
We got the MPD beat pad. We got the synthesizer, and don't be wrong, I dabble into it, and I definitely whip up some beats. Do every single one of them get used? Are they all worth it? Probably not. But when it comes to, recording all of this into the interface and into the computer, into the programs, that's where I come in and really polish it all off and get it sounding clean.
Yeah, maybe I should hit you up about doing some of that, because I got some like basic, home studio setup type stuff. Maybe not as extensive as this. Maybe. I mean, a lot of my stuff's just kind of sitting in corners right now because I don't know what to do with it.
And the thing is, we may showcase it in a certain sense, because we bring people here to record as well. But at the end of the day, these days, you need, a 2-channel interface, an instrument at a time, and a computer is all you need.
You need a laptop and then like a $100 interface that goes USB in and then a microphone.
You're good to go.
Yeah, and I'm glad we gave a shout out to Ethan again, too, because once again, I've played shows with him, with Jared Hart playing drums, Pawn Shop Kids. We discussed that a little bit earlier, too. So, shout out to those guys. I've played with Jared on a lot of different shows, Americature and things like that. I'm in a punk band called Three Finger Betty, so we would occasionally, share the stage stage at different places. We've even played up here in Fort Dodge with them once, and the pawn shop kids were even there. So.
Yeah, I mean, to go on Jared for just a second here, just to give a big shout out because, since I was 12 years old, he's been putting on shows, and put me on for my first time, gave me my first show to see, and continues to do so for the band community that it still exists around here, and if it wasn't for people like him, there wouldn't be a lot of shows going on as far as speaking locally, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, the other cool thing about that is I think he recently moved, so he's not even like in the area, but he still comes up here and puts on shows, which is
puts in the work.
It's killer,
Yeah,
absolutely. Shout out Jared, but
shout out Jared.
Oh man. So I mean, that's another cool thing I think about that is like you guys got a lot of places up here to try to play shows. At least even for younger people, like we discussed, the Eagles Club. You could go up to the 3rd floor there and play, and it's okay, But like up in Humboldt, it's like, well, you want to go to this bar or that bar, and they're like, we don't want kids in here, so don't.
Exactly.
You're not coming in.
They're
here.
very picky on who they're performing for and who they're choosing to do that with. No, and you're right. Fort Dodge has had a few, but it's kind of a hit or miss because, like you say, at the Eagles and even on the 2nd floor of that, which a lot of people didn't know about, which is Spanky's.
Yep.
I don't know what they call it now, but
I don't know. It changes so much.
So much, right? So, and there's been those hole-in-the-wall kind of venues where we've kind of clicked up and our group of friends have created this community. But beyond that is really what is a challenge for Fort Dodge. Fort Frenzy, we'll get there and we're starting to do shows in kind of a different lane. But until Fort Frenzy, there really wasn't a big place to showcase a whole lot of music acts besides those venues,
Yeah, it's true.
And the struggle was, I call it a hole in the wall place to kind of iterate on that or, explain on that is, it was hard to get people to come there, let alone most people don't even know about the 2nd floor or even the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
So when they hear about this address, they go there and they're like, well, this is the bingo spot or,
Yeah.
They don't know. So that's what's always been difficult at Fort Dodge is finding a place that is front and center. It's easily accessible and gives a backing, a community backing that says it's more than just some hoodlums playing music that come from garage bands. You know what I mean?
Nothing against hoodlums playing music from garage
Absolutely
bands.
not. That's what we all started with.
That's where we cut our teeth.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Let's keep going on the Spankies or the Eagles Club type deal. I mean, like when I was a teenager, I used to go up there and they'd have jam nights on the 2nd floor. And then I remember getting a little bit older. I'm like, man, when are those jam nights there? And they're like, oh, we don't have those anymore.
We don't have them anymore.
They quit doing those years ago. And it's like, oh man, like I guess times change, and then somebody's like, we're playing a concert at, up at the Eagles Club. I'm like, sweet, it's the 2nd floor. That place is going to be packed. And they're like, no, 3rd floor. I'm like,
floor.
I didn't even know they had a 3rd floor,
Yep.
And you go up there and you're like, this place is sweet.
And those who know about the 3rd don't know about the 2nd.
Yeah. You just hop in the elevator and go all the way up and call it good or whatever. But,
yeah,
that's one of those things. I like to think about that here, like also just doing those like renegade style, like just throwing it together style shows. There's a lot of support that comes out of this area. Not just, there's a lot of crossover between like the punk guys, the hip hop guys, the country guys, the folk singers, the singer songwriters. Everybody kind of supports each other.
Absolutely. And that's a big point with Fort Dodge that makes it so special. Is not only is there so much raw talent, not only from Fort Dodge but surrounding areas. There's so much raw talent coming from the area, and like you said, we all support each other and we all kind of intertwine, whether it's a collaboration or doing shows together or just getting together on a Tuesday night and jamming, and that's the beauty of it is that community's been there for 10 plus years now, same people inside of it, and I think now more than ever we all are just kind of we're all finally understanding how to really market it, make it make sense, and bring it to the community in a full-fledged way.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
It's just as much like, the support thing should never get undersold up here. I'm always blown away by how much everybody supports each other up here, how much they're willing to be like, oh yeah, you can come over on our show and play something on our show. Or, like you said, you could be a hip hop guy opening up on a punk show. Nobody,
Absolutely,
nobody's going to sit there and judge you for it, and it's, I'm not trying to pick on any other scenes, but I've definitely dabbled in a lot of different areas and a lot of different scenes around Iowa, and they're not all this positive. I will definitely come out and say that.
Yeah, no, and you're right. I've seen the other end of the spectrum, like you said, and I've seen communities that kind of make you realize, oh, we could do more.
100%.
Absolutely. It goes both ways, but yeah, you're right. I think Fort Dodge does get undersold more than the credit is deserved to be there.
It's starting to get put on the map, though. There's a lot of guys from Des Moines area and down south, and and southeastern Iowa and stuff that are starting to come up here and play at places like Sneakers or something like that, or River Hops and things like that.
And I think it's people like you and Jesse Wilson and Clint and all them who are really kind of giving that envelope giving that platform in existence with places like Sneakers and with the places like Fourth Depot's not existent anymore, but I mean, help me out here. Give me some of these knuckleheads. I know bring them out quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you got Shiny Top, River Hops. I
Yeah.
mean, you can go over to the Junkyard in Barnum. We're talking
There you go.
Byron's over in
There you go.
Pomeroy. We can we could keep naming names if you want.
Exactly, yeah.
Timbuk Brew and Clarion. I mean, there's a lot of places up north here that people are starting to find that, like, oh, we can come up here and play, and not only just play, but these places are A, thankful to have music, B, have people that will come watch you play
And
music,
enjoy it.
and they'll even pay you to do it, which is sometimes a rarity depending on where you decide to play music.
These days, yeah.
I'm not trying to not trying to call any venues out, but it's
Right.
getting paid to play music is not always a thing that happens, and
Half the time they're trying to get you to pay to play.
yeah.
Which is, it's a different game out here now. It's a different game.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to change. The pay-to-play is going away. There's not a whole lot of people willing to do it anymore. And the only way to capitalize on that was pretty much to have merch to make it up on the back end, hopefully.
Right.
You know?
Well, in a little bit of rubbing the back
Yeah.
to the artist, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, you're right, though. I do see it changing. I do see it kind of coming back to the entertainment being about the entertainers.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing against the pay-to-play stuff. I've played a lot of them. Some of them are super packed, and everyone's just like, oh, man, we love your band. And all of a sudden, your band page, spikes 100 people, and you're like, oh, well, it was kind of worth it for the exposure.
Exactly. You paid the couple hundred for the exposure.
Yeah.
And that's typically, I think, that's the sales pitch behind it.
Yeah.
All in all. you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, but once again, you got to be able to capitalize on that. I've played at shows too where people are just like, "Dude, I want to buy your CD." It's like, "Don't got one." It's like, "Well, I want to buy a shirt." Don't got one. It's like, "Well, we missed out on that one."
See,
like
and
that,
that's where you blame the artist. You kind of gotta, if you're gonna go and start doing shows, you gotta know. Give them something, you're showcasing yourself. Give them something to take home with them.
Yeah.
And if you ain't got that, then I guess go showcase, but give them some social medias to go find you at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
You
heck,
know?
I've even spent time in bands where it's just like, we got a Facebook page and that's it. And it's like, well, that's not enough anymore.
Nowadays, who's
unfortunately.
going to Facebook? They're going to Spotify. They're going to Apple Music. That's where they want to see you.
TikTok, Instagram. I mean,
Yep.
Twitter's dead, but even Twitter, I still find a lot of people still interact with us on Twitter. Believe it or not.
Twitter's bigger than we think it is how I feel. Being out here in the Midwest and how we utilize social media locally and through our peers and through our outreach, Midwest just really isn't about Twitter.
No.
It's just it's a weird thing.
Okay, I'm gonna let out a secret here. So if you guys are looking, I want to get on Spotify playlist, but I don't want to pay someone to get on Spotify playlist. Hunt through Twitter. There's plenty of people that say, "Send me your stuff," and they'll throw your stuff on there for a week, 2 weeks, or whatever.
That's like the low down and dirty groundwork of it. There's places now like Submit Hub where you're pretty much taking everyone who's on Twitter as curators and creators and they got vloggers and bloggers and all this, and they're putting it all in one spot, all in one hub for you to kind of pay $3 a submission kind of thing, and it's same thing pretty much, but it kind of it brings it all into one category for you.
Yeah, so I guess you could pay for that. I know a lot of people who do the pay to jump on playlists, and it seems to work. I mean,
well, it's not a pay to jump on play; it's more or less a pay to almost get this playlist curator or the creator to even open your email, more or less. It's like, hey, I paid $3 compared to the guy who pays $1, and it's like this token kind of thing. Submit Hub, look into it. It's one of those things. But
if I had a pencil, I'd be writing that down right
now. And with Twitter is one of those things where you're going to get more organic.
Yeah.
Interaction and networking when you reach out like that.
Yeah.
As long as you're not spamming them. Hey, check out my shit right away. Our stuff. Yeah.
That is true. I mean, I actually have done the spam thing on Twitter before, because sometimes I'll be like, well, I'm just going to just message 10 people or just post on 10 people's posts or something. And one guy was just like, dude, you've been posting on people's stuff. That's like all you do is you just reply to people's stuff. And it's like, you caught me. But, so, I mean, there is a little bit of tit for tat on some of that stuff.
I mean, marketing these days in general, I'll tell you what, that's something I've took upon myself to study and learn for the past 6 months to a year, honestly, and really indulged in it and realized, I've been doing it all wrong for 10 years, to be honest with you, and once you start learning that, it's even once you learn all these points and these hints, not hints, but these kind of free game, it's still a fine line between what they call spamming, and what's over the line and what's too much and what's not enough. That line, I think, differs with each artist and each goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Schulte actually did a really good interview. Well, and I won't say an interview. He did a solo podcast on the Iowa Music Podcast. If you've never heard of it, I'd suggest checking it out. But it was awesome. So what he did was he tested it out, and he was just like, I'm going to post every other day for a month, and we'll see how much interaction I get. And then we'll post twice a day and see how much I get. Yeah. And posting twice a day yielded him 20 times more exposure. I mean, it's like you think you're spamming people, but what you don't realize is a lot of that crap just gets lost in the shuffle on social media because so many people are posting so much
You're
stuff.
absolutely right, and that's what I learned the most about was algorithms and how you target your demographic and how you promote it. So I mean, if you're going to Instagram or Facebook, you have to realize as soon as you pull a link into the mix, like a YouTube link. Mm-hmm. Facebook and Instagram, they will put that to the bottom of the algorithm because it's their opposing company, right?
Yeah,
so those kind of things is people don't really realize, and that's the kind of freaking I'm talking about. Is once you learn those little things, okay, well now I'll make a post with a picture, it's describing what I got going on, and if anything, I'll boost it so I can put the .com or the YouTube link in a Learn More button that Facebook offers me, so they get their little feelings good on it, and then or otherwise put it in the comments. Put your link in the comments. Yeah, and you're right. Yeah,
dude, 100%. I mean, even if you just say YouTube like in a post,
it's already
boom. They push it to the bottom. I've even found out that you can't even say capital Y, capital T because they're figuring out people are
really
trying to work around YouTube.
Yeah.
So one of the things I saw Mike Schulte do was he would say, on another platform we have this, or on the other place you can find this, and then like you said, he'll just put a thumbnail down there.
Yeah,
and then
well, I mean, it's kind of a perfect segue. That's why we're going into the website, DeuceBlockClothing.com, full-on website, full-on domain to catch anything, everything, James Tyler, Ethan Cain, and Lake Street. And so that's kind of our way is we can promote the .com. We don't have to worry about challenging these algorithms with these other opposing companies, and hit them with that domain, and that's the one-stop shop. You can get every link you need us at, whether it's TikTok all the way down to Spotify, Apple Music, to Instagram, to Twitter, to SoundCloud if people still go there. So wherever you want it, you'll get us on that domain. I think that's the smart move for just about anybody these days. Go to your own .com. It's the way to go.
Honestly, it is. I use, and I'm just going to throw it out there, I use SoundCloud to host this podcast, but I actually also look at the stats on there. How many people are listening natively on SoundCloud as opposed to using a third-party RSS app like, iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Almost nobody uses SoundCloud to listen to podcasts, actually. So they're using
You'd be schooling me because I wouldn't know, yeah.
They're using those third-party apps instead of just SoundCloud. And that's the other funny thing about SoundCloud is I got a podcast on there, and every now and then some rapper people will be like, oh, check out my stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, I forget that this is mostly for the internet rap scene anymore.
It really is, and I mean honestly, SoundCloud. I think if we utilize it for anything, don't get me wrong, everything we do ends up there for those who go there, and we have followers who only listen there. Mm-hmm. But I really like to utilize it for the remixes that we do because SoundCloud is a huge way. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of a free game moment here, but the hashtags that you use in SoundCloud, if you use them correctly. Let's pick a Roddy Ricch, song. If you were to do a remix to that and you hashtag it the right way, I won't give that up. But if you hashtag it the right way, you'll show up either right above his or right next to the original song every single time.
Nice.
And so it's kind of, and if you're monetizing your music, another thing people should know, hopefully they do know, is if you're monetizing, you're doing everything correctly. I mean, there's chump change to be made by just releasing a song, and there really is.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. A lot of people are, either confused on how to monetize music, and I mean you can just do basic searches to figure out the best way to do it. And like one of the tricks I've been showing people is like if you use a distribution site, I don't care if it's DistroKid or
United Masters or
whatever you use to distribute it everywhere. Almost all of them will create like a YouTube music video type
for
thing
you on their own.
But then
Absolutely.
you can go to YouTube and you can find it on there too, and a lot of times it's stuck on some weird channel that's not your channel.
It's not yours.
And there's a way to take those and put them front and center on your actual YouTube channel, so when people listen to them, it generates revenue.
Absolutely. And honestly, I've spent weeks and weeks and weeks with emails through DistroKid sorting that out because there's one other James Tyler music in this world, And so but the thing is he's I'm not even gonna cloud him on this, you know what I'm saying? But like significant smaller numbers than I'm even at, and my numbers aren't big. Mm-hmm. So that tells me it doesn't really matter. He can be bought out at one point if it comes down to that, but otherwise, countless emails with DistroKid getting them on the right page because they do that even if it's not the right, if it's not the same name artist, they'll somehow get you on somebody else's stuff sometimes.
It happens like that.
It does.
A good example for that would be I was in a metal band called Unity. And I mean they've been around for like 10 plus years, but then there was some band in Germany that's like a super group of metal, that was like a whole bunch of different bands. Somebody from every band kind of jumped in, and they called themselves Unity. Well, boom, they got the name taken over, you know.
Yeah.
But then you go up there, and there's also like, you know, yoga playlists by like, you know, instrumental people who just, you know, do synthwave type stuff, and they call themselves Unity. And then there's, you know, and then there's Jamaican stuff going on
names
there.
They're difficult. You know, you gotta. It's almost impossible to be original anymore. And if you're gonna go with a name that's probably being used, I mean, the first thing I suggest anyone doing is go check your copyright on it right away. You know, there's websites out there where you can just type it in and it'll just let you know instantly. Is there copyrights on this? Is there trademarks? Is so on and so forth, you know. And nowadays, good luck.
Yeah.
You know, good luck. And really, what's your purpose? Because you don't need all that. Like, if you're just, you know, it really just depends what level you're at and how serious you take something.
Yeah, true. Because, like, I mean, if you want to make your own copyright thing, it usually costs anywhere from like $100 to a couple $100, depending on how you want to do it.
It's not much money.
It's really not that much money, and it's like if you're thinking about like, well, if we make T-shirts of this, that, and the other, and they're like, we can make that up in a year, easy pie, you know, and then you have that safety net behind you to be like, well, this is my name. Technically, you can't have this name, so
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I'm in a punk band named Three Finger Betty. Ain't nobody gonna take that name. And,
Right.
And not only that, but like, who wants that name? No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's great.
If John's
It's
listening
great.
to this, I'm sorry, John.
No, it's great. And going off that, I mean, Late Street, you know, which most who know James Tyler know what I'm doing, and Ethan Cain, that's our collab group. And Late Street is that beautiful thing where the name kind of came naturally off a verse that I wrote, and the line just kind of stood out, and one day it was just like, well, what are we gonna call ourselves as a group? That line ended up coming up, and it was like, well, that's it, Late Street, you know, Deuce Block on Late Street. But either way, once we started putting it in the, you know, in the systems, and we started going for LLCs and getting, you know, copyrights and all that, it doesn't exist anywhere. Like,
Nice.
the beauty of it was, it's almost meant to happen. You know, Late Street doesn't exist anywhere else, and that, you know, that's so rare these days. It's so rare, unless you got, like you said, Three Finger Betty, which honestly, man, you'd be surprised. Like, have you ever tried to actually see if it's copyright or trademark anywhere?
I never have, honestly. You know,
I'm almost curious now. I kind of want to know.
it's not my baby, so I give a little bit of my time to, you know, beefing some of the stuff up, but it's not my baby, so it's kind of, I'll kind of just leave all that in John's hands. But
I get it.
But yeah, I mean, as far as bands like with the LLCs and stuff, do you have to have one? No. Like, should you have one? Maybe. Like, is it worth it? I don't
Depends
know.
how serious you're trying to take it. It really comes down to that.
If you're making money, you might want to have one so you can write some stuff off on the back end.
That's exactly where I'm at, and Late Street's at right now. Is we are finally at a point where we want to take it that next step, you know, with the .com, the online web store, and performing. We've been performing for 10 years, but it's at a point now where we're performing on a higher tier than we were for the past few years. And that being the case, we only want to push it further. So we're looking, you know, the LLC is something we don't even have yet for Late Street. I don't even know if I want to release that publicly.
No,
You know, I'll have to go pay somebody else for it now. But no, and that right there just comes down to is it's different when you're doing it solely and in a partnership, you know, and so and that's something we're learning and figuring out, and it's exciting. It's exciting knowing that we're pushing in a direction where the money is also at a point now where we're like, oh man, we kind of have to take this serious. Like, we can't just be going off personal accounts anymore because we're holding, you know, a few $1,000s in a brand that's not either one of us. It's a sole partnership.
It's between the two of you, and that's the other thing. Like, I don't know, I went to school for accounting or whatever. It's like, it's a lot easier to write stuff off if you actually have like an LLC or something than if you're trying to report it on your personal taxes and things like that. 'Cause it's just the way it works, you know.
And absolutely, even going down to your merchandise, you get tax breaks if you have an LLC. Just ordering merchandise in bulk. Yeah. And that was something I learned over the past year. It was just, okay, well, this LLC is more beneficial than just being official.
Yeah.
You know?
Places will give you that tax break for having your own tax number or tax ID, and then, you know, whatever. Yeah, that's all that's all super deep business accounting stuff.
We're just getting into conversations now.
In case anybody's wondering, Ethan is actually sitting here behind the camera, and nobody can see him, but he's waving at us, and we're looking at him and pointing him out here. So he is here. Maybe he'll sneak in here for a little bit, but
pull up a chair.
Yeah. But you do play live shows, though. I mean, it was kind of sketchy there. Nobody was playing live shows, and then for a while, some people were, and some people weren't. And I get it, where everybody was kind of picking and choosing what they were going to do. I mean, we did a couple private shows, and like I did a warehouse show where it was just like, well, there's only 50 people here, and this warehouse could, you know, easily fit 5,000 people, so everyone could easily stay far enough away. And we did a couple of those here and there, and but you do have shows coming up. You're starting to book shows just as everyone else is finally starting to book shows again.
Absolutely. So. You know, and we took a break off for the solid year there. We definitely did. for good reason, absolutely for good reason. But now I think it's at a point where not only is the comfortability getting there, the buttons, like the trigger's going to be pulled eventually. It's never going to feel okay at first. It's never going to feel like I don't know. There's this underlying feeling of I'm kind of doing something wrong. It seems like
that's
right?
the thing that everyone needs to get over. You're not doing something
and
wrong.
we won't get over it until we just start doing it.
Exactly.
And so and luckily for us is we didn't have to come around and do our own show. We had people reach out to us and want us to come on to traveling shows. So I mean, in the first one being April 21st at Lefty's down in Des Moines with King ISO.
Sweet. Yeah, this will be out before then. So that's the first show you guys are going to be able to check.
King ISO, Strange Music, Lefty's, April 21st. And then following that is at Fort Frenzy here in Fort Dodge, which is, I mean, a couple key points there. First of all, it's Riff Raff headlining that show. So that's kind of a big deal for Fort Dodge alone, is to have someone like Riff Raff come through. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it's happening at Fort Frenzy, which leads into another show in July. But to touch on Fort Frenzy here, that's kind of a big opportunity for Fort Dodge in itself, is that's a venue now.
Yeah.
It's a venue now. So, and that's cool. And this is the first show where they're going to showcase there, and to be a part of it is exciting and definitely, I don't know. I'm just really excited to see where it goes, to have a spot like this in Fort Dodge where we can actually bring traveling acts in. It's opening doors for all of us,
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, this isn't anything against your breweries or your small restaurants or anything
Not
like
at all.
that are playing shows. It's just another new place that can fit a different style of music in there, and
kind of a larger capacity.
Yeah, and if you haven't been to Fort Frenzy in a while, they just keep expanding and keep making it bigger and better.
Yep.
I mean, the first time I was out there, it was pretty much just an arcade for kids.
Right.
Ethan's here, and then all of a sudden it was just like, well, now they got go-karts, and now they got there's a hotel right next door that they built that's like, if you want to come here for the weekend, you could stay at the hotel and hang out, and I mean, there's all sorts of stuff going on there. So I mean, it just keeps getting bigger and better, and I'm glad there's stuff going on.
We got Ethan Cain coming in the mix here.
I only got 2 mics, so
it's all right.
If you want to give any shout outs, make sure you just pass that mic over. But yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite things about at least the Fort Frenzy area, is the fact that somebody's actually doing something with it, and you're booking shows there, and maybe it'll open up an opportunity.
Just to be clear, I'm not booking shows. We have different agencies with Dirty Dodge Promotions, Corrupted Promotions, and CLM. They're the ones handling the booking.
Yeah,
they reached out to us to bring on as artists. But
you're getting booked on shows there. But it's one of those things where I think, well, maybe that'll open up, to somebody else getting booked on a show.
And
there.
absolutely it will in time. In time. And to be honest, it's all still kind of experimental. Fort Frenzy's never done anything like this. Fort Dodge has never had anything of this scale come through. And to be honest, everybody, it's on you guys. The more people that show up, the more that the community shows this is something we get excited about, the more that not only us in the community will try and make it happen. If Fort Dodge sees it, Fort Dodge, the city, I have no issue believing that they would try to hop on something that brings such excitement to the community.
Exactly. That's the other thing. If it brings in attention, money, people, it brings in people from out of town. It's worth having, and cities and businesses definitely realize that.
Right.
And that's one of those things where, like, we were talking about some of the breweries, like your River Hops and your places like that. They realize that kind of stuff. There's people that will come from I come from Humboldt and watch shows there, so they realize they can bring people in if they bring in whatever your Tank Anthony's or your Blue Ribbon Ramblers or whoever and it's like, I mean, they could bring some people in and they'll spend money here and it's actually good business, so we'll start bringing them
good
back.
For everybody.
Exactly.
It's good for everybody.
Exactly. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, not that like Three Finger Betty has a hard time getting booked places, but it's also kind of tough for me to like. I'm not going to go to Sneakers and be like, you want to book Three Finger Betty? We use profanity in every song, and there's going to be people sitting down here eating dinner and stuff.
Absolutely. And it's.
Let me see this. I can say something on this. It's like, even playing with the Pawn Shop kids, playing here in Fort Dodge for as long as I have, I've been playing shows here forever, and if I didn't book them or if Jared didn't book them, they didn't happen.
Yeah.
We never got offered to play at any brewery, any place like that. That didn't exist back then, but still, like you said, no one wants to come watch a heavy thrash band throw it down and scream at you for 30 minutes, unless you're really into that scene. And then that's when we come in and we'll take you to the warehouse or take you to the Bat Cave or take you somewhere else where we can have that scene and brew that scene on our terms. And that's kind of what we did for so long. And now that these guys are coming out, it's like a beautiful thing to see it all blossoming kind of like right in front of us with an underground scene, with the headlining scene, and the bar scene.
Yep.
It's just this beautiful thing that's happening right now. It's awesome.
Yeah, you actually just reminded me, like, speaking of thrash bands and stuff like that coming around town, I got to give a shout out to Patty's. They're closed. They're not around anymore. You know, it was Pee Wee's
Absolutely.
before or whatever, but man, they had bands coming in there left and right. And then when
All
they
the time.
closed, it was just like, what are we going to do?
What do we
Like,
do now?
That was the last place, you know, Three Finger Betty had played in Fort Dodge until Jared started booking shows at random places around here and, you know, in places that would accept us. And once again, it's not like Three Finger Betty is like super coarse material and things like that, but people sitting down eating dinner at Sneakers don't want to get yelled at by a high energy.
It goes
punk
back to
band, you know?
being it goes back to being hip hop artists or rappers, honestly, and where the stigma was inciting riots and the people you bring are blah blah blah. I mean, it goes back to that. It's been hard, and we're finally turning the page on that. And honestly, with the new breweries and the bars opening up to the live acts that they are, it's inspired me and him both to sit here, and it's like we can.
Down our hip hop set, you know, I'll like grab the acoustic and like just do some stuff just to make that happen for a set, you know, so we can actually go to these bars and play that type of scene, you know, because we try to fit in there as well. We want to do that.
Well, not only do we try, we come from that naturally, and the thing is, I mean, I stem so heavily into poetry, and so I know I can tone it down to a spoken word level if I'm in the corner of a bar, you know, with just a karaoke setup, and put a guitar in Ethan's hands. We do this when we jam out, so it's like really all you guys have done is inspire us to say, oh, we can go and jam out with you guys. Like we can do this on a different genre, but still fit right in the same pocket.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I absolutely love the fact that, like, I mean, let's go with like the rap and hip hop scene a little bit. A lot of people are just like, oh, it's just dudes with beat boot machines, and they just push play, and then or they put a USB into a laptop, and then they just hooty hoot, you know, or whatever. But like, you go watch them live, and it's like any more live. There's a bass player, a drummer, a guitarist, and like a guy playing synth, you know, and it's like, holy crap, they're going
serious
full band
about
on
their
this.
craft. Because don't be wrong, you got people who are out here who are just studio rappers, and then you see them on stage and they get booked for these shows and they're just karaokeing their songs. There's vocals behind everything, and they are just hitting play on their cell phone through a PA, you know. And so I don't like to hit like that. Don't be wrong, we bring a laptop. We have yet to find a DJ who can really really rock with us,
which is tough.
It's tough. It's
It's
a dying art,
dude. I've tried doing that. It is freaking hard. It's freaking
tough.
hard.
It's tough. And so being on the struggle of that, don't be wrong, we show up with a laptop, but we keep it 100% instrumentals. So, you know, so at least my instrument is my vocals. You know what I mean? So if I'm not showcasing you my instrument full on, full through, and I'm just karaokeing over my own song, then what am I really? How can I call myself a performer? How could I actually be?
Any more than Lindsay Lohan.
Or just someone who says I'm a good talker and watch me on my, or not even watch me, listen to my MP3s on social media.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's definitely a level to it where it's like if you can be a rapper, but are you a performer? Are you an artist? Are you serious about your craft? You know,
there's definitely something to that. I'm gonna tie it back to punk music. I mean, like, we could just stand on stage and just make it, you know, not make any facial expressions, and then just stand in one spot and play guitar or whatever. But man, we go play with Three Finger Betty. It's high energy music. I'm running left and right. I'm doing all the goofy poses, making the faces, and doing the whole thing, because it's like people want to see a show. They're gonna get into it more if people are moving around than they are if you're just standing there. And I get that some people are like, well, you know, I got to stand still and play the music correct or whatever. But I mean, like, even with the band Unity, it was just like, once I got used to playing a little bit more intricate riffs, it was just like, all right, now we're gonna do the whole, like, everybody stand with their foot on the monitor and point the guitar at the crowd kind of deal or whatever, you know. And people love that stuff. You know, they eat it up.
It's so fun. Like, you may think and feel like it's cheesy when you're in the process of like choreographing that stuff, you know what I'm saying, or choreographing that stuff, but it's necessary. I mean, that's what makes or breaks the mentality of local to something bigger. You know what I mean? When you're only thinking, well, I'm just playing for my friends I grew up with and went to high school with here in Fort Dodge. Like, if that's your mentality, well, then you're going to stay in that position, you know? But when you're thinking, well, I'm here to give them a show. If I'm playing for 10 people or 100 people, they're going to get the same performance.
Yep.
And that took me a long time to learn personally. Is he would get mad at me because I would struggle. I was like, if we have 10 people there, bro, my energy's lost, and I would struggle. And it took years for me to get comfortable enough with myself and confident in my own performance and my own music to realize that I don't care if there's 3, 5, 6 of you, to 50 to 100 to 150 to 300 people of you. Like, I'm going to give you guys the same performance no matter what. And that's how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a good point too, though. Like, if you're just playing, and I'm not saying just playing, but if you're playing for just the people who are a whole bunch of your buddies and stuff like that, sometimes you're just like, it's a little embarrassing for me to ham it up on stage or whatever. It's like, dude, you got to get over that hump
get over it.
because it might be 10 of your buddies and then 10 people who have never seen you before, and those are the 10 people you should be playing for, not your 10 buddies.
And your
that are
friends
in every
will
show.
never give you the same amount of support that someone who doesn't know who you are will. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I love my friends. I love my homies. And y'all support. Like, I couldn't ask for anything more. But what I'm saying is there's a different amount that comes with someone who doesn't even know who you are.
Yeah.
But then they found your music and they loved it so much that they were like, I got to support this. There's a different dynamic there when it comes to, like, I grew up with this guy who is into what I'm doing and respects the passion compared to this person who has no clue what you stand for, who you are personally, but they're like, his art is amazing.
Yeah.
And, so,
Yeah, 100%. Let's like, I mean, we got a half an hour in here already. This is awesome. Let's sidetrack here just a little bit. We're talking hip hop and rap and stuff. And I'm a little bit older than you guys, maybe not. I don't know. I'm in my 30s, early 30s, but like, I went to Iowa Central, in the mid 2000s, and there were people there that were like, I'm a rapper or whatever. Like, check out this rap demo somebody founded. You just get like a weird burned CD and you pop it in. And it's like,
Yeah.
And nothing against it, but some of it wasn't very good.
most of it's not.
And I'm not trying to call anybody out, but it's just not my flavor of stuff. So when people are like, I'm a rapper or a hip hop artist, I'm always just kind of nervous because it's like, I don't want to judge this person unfairly, and I'm throwing this out there seriously. I'm not blowing smoke up your butt at all. I listen to your stuff and I'm like, this guy gets it. Like, maybe it's more palatable to my tastes or something, but like, I enjoy what you're doing. I enjoy what you do. It's one of those things where I think to myself, like, maybe some people are making stuff that's not for me. That's like the easiest way to go about doing it. But some of it's also low production
I'll tell you
value,
what,
or like their heart's not in it or something. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah, I mean, just to speak on it, I guess. I mean, thank you first and foremost. Like, appreciate the hell out of that. No, I think a lot of it is initially why people get into rapping. I think for the most part, and I'm speaking from outside, I guess, my realm, honestly. But I see a lot of it as in, this is what's cool. And if I do this, I'll get attention and maybe make some money off of it.
no, you can,
Yeah, but so that being the case is you get a lot of that, and most of it is just put out there with that. Like, you can feel that. You can feel that it's not. There's no passion. There's no real heart behind it. There's no. Call it what you will.
Yeah.
Right. Call it what you will. So, and to be honest, we've gotten that our whole lives. Is like where I've always. People be like, oh, you do music, and I'm like, I don't even want to tell them I'm a rapper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really don't, because there's a stigma where it's like, oh, you're a rapper, and back then it was I just expected to be trash. Now it's everybody's a rapper.
Yeah.
And so either way, the stigma really hasn't left. And the only difference now is that I've had so many years proven to me where it's like I shy away from it, but then when I really show them the music, they go, oh, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that.
100%. I mean, I'm just gonna go like this. I mean, Ethan, even you and Pawn Shop Kids, you do. I wouldn't say you do like rap stuff, but you do like incorporate little bits of hip hop and things like that into what you got going on.
Definitely.
And so like that's another thing where it's just like I never expected this to be a thing, and then all of a sudden you're just like, this is actually pretty cool because it's blending two styles I would have normally thought would have blended together well.
Right, and it's so weird because even when it comes to the Pawn Shop Kids, like my overall goal with that was like I want a '90s alternative like grunge band, but I want to be able to like spit bars to it, and I want it to be kind of heavy. And so that was like where I went with it.
Dude, now that you say that, it's just like light bulb. Like that makes sense. That's exactly like the feel of it.
Exactly. And so it's like I want Gavin Rosdell to be singing to you, but then I also want Chuck D to be rapping at you at the same time. So it's like, how can I do that and make that happen? And so that was like my Pawn Shop Kid thing, and that's where that came from. But then to come even touch back on just the CD thing and just the kind of that stereotype that we were just talking on, like it comes down for us, like when we put CDs out, when we do that, like we've done the whole burnt CD thing and all that. It's like we try to give you a jewel case, we try to give you the whole 9 yards. We want to make it feel as real as it can possibly be, because we were those kids going to shows buying these CDs from like Index Case and the Stumpletons and all these other bands and stuff, and it's like to have those cases in our hands, it's like, oh, this is awesome, bigger than life, and then to now to be able to do that for these younger kids and all of that, that's our goal. That's what we want to do,
But it's finding the happy medium there, because it's like jewel cases and CDs, they don't hit the same, and kind of vinyls are kind of coming back.
Yep.
But the production of a vinyl record is expensive, to be honest. From an artist standpoint, it's really expensive.
I'm looking
to
directly
put
at
up.
the camera. Yes, it is.
It's expensive,
dude.
It's expensive.
We're selling the selling our 3-Finger Betty vinyls $15 a pop and clearing no money on it, because that's how much money we spent on mixing, mastering it for vinyl specifically, finding somebody that could actually like
Because your
press
artwork
and
has
cut
to
a vinyl
change
well.
different. Everything, yeah.
I
It's
have a vinyl record for hip hop. I have this whole thing planned out for a solo album. It's like it's almost like Metallica's Black Album, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like a black album that I have. It's a dark themed album that I want to do, and I totally want to get it pressed up on vinyl. And I'll have to talk to you about this after this, because I want to figure out how you went about to do it. I know there's a couple different companies, but something that I think would be really cool. You just have to do it like a low number, like limited run, low number shit. But to the people who love that vinyl, like I love it. I love that stuff. When we did the Battle Royal show, that was awesome. Like I went over to their table. I gave them, I think I gave them $20. They gave me a T-shirt, a cassette tape, patches, 2 vinyls, two CDs. I mean, they literally just unloaded their merch on me, and I was like, "You guys are awesome! Thank you for coming from Chicago. I hope you guys watch this. This is great."
Yeah, that's another one of those things. Don't judge a band based on like what you think their appearance is. Because I was like, "Man, these guys are gruff. They're gonna be mean as hell." And then I talked to one of them outside, and I was like, "Dude, this guy's nice as hell."
Yeah, like these guys are cool as shit. Like they were really awesome. Yeah, like exactly that one guy walking around with a cane. Like
I was like, "This guy's gonna kill me."
Yeah,
like if I just say something wrong or look at him wrong.
I was like, it was awesome though.
Oh my
gosh, it was
gosh.
so cool.
Yeah, the vinyl game's tough, and like I was once again I rode in the back seat on like getting vinyls pressed because it was something John from 3-Finger Betty wanted to do, and I was just like, if you want to do it, you jump headlong into it and do it. And I mean, I found a few different places, and one of them's like, it has to be 12-inch, and you have to have at least this much material, otherwise you're gonna have like a giant section of blank on the vinyl, and you have to make 500 of them, and it's like, whoa, if I don't, you're not gonna 500, or whatever, and so it's like, well, let's just see if we can find a place that'll maybe just make 100 or something like that instead. And so we went through a couple different places, and I know the person that kind of set it all up for us, they knew all the contacts to hit up, but it was weird because it's just like, we'll make you 100 vinyls and we'll make you 100 vinyl sleeves, but in order to make the center labels, the minimum orders like 200. So it's like, well, we got like 100 center sleeve labels for the vinyl that they're not even stuck to anything. So it's just like, what do we do with these,
Just hand them out at shows.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the coolest things I was talking about earlier about like mixing the scene up here a little bit. The first time I ever even figured out who you were, James Tyler, was when you were doing stuff with Jesse Wilson. Like Jesse was just like, "Oh, I got this guy named James Tyler, so he's going to, come and rap a little bit on this album or this song I'm going to put out or whatever." That's like an early bird leak. That's not out yet or anything,
Yeah,
but
has not been announced.
No, but that's how I figured out who you were, and I was just like, man, like, how do you figure out who this guy is? Like, where'd you figure out who this guy is? I gotta go look his stuff up. And I was kind of I was already friends with you or friends with people that knew you, so it was like,
Right.
I'll just hit him up online and see what he says, and that was how I figured out, oh, you got a YouTube channel, and not only that, but you like do remixes on there just about every week. You put out a new remix.
Every other week, I do a remix to. I try to do the most trending song if no one's given anything out there, but I also let the supporters and anyone who follows me tell me what to remix. You know what I mean? I think next week we're probably gonna work on some Dirty Heads because I had a request to do a Dirty Heads remix, so that'll be real fun.
What's the thought process on doing a remix? How do you go about doing it, or what's like the basis for it? Like
So-
that's the other thing. Me being a guy that just pretty much plays guitar, it's just like I don't even know what's going on here.
Right.
So.
It definitely differs by the song and by how I'm feeling. I mean, I did a remix 2 nights ago where it was 100% last minute freestyle off the top, and I didn't have a song in mind until I sat down. Yeah, I ended up remixing NF Clouds actually first. Did about 4 remixes to that. Mm-hmm. Wasn't personally happy with any of them, and then went to Justin Bieber Peaches and did about 3 of those. Picked one, released it, and if anyone actually has been paying attention, I took it down 6 hours ago because I wasn't happy with it, which is actually, I've never done that my whole life of releasing music. I've never put anything out and took it down, but I did for the first time, and I just got a lot of family stuff going on right now this week that happens to be that reason for that. But either way, let me bring it back to the answer to your question. The remix process just kind of comes down to, do I want to completely attack it with the same tone and rhythm that the original artist did? Mm-hmm. That's the first question I ask myself.
Yep.
And then second question I ask myself is, do I have the topic like, am I capable to talk about this topic right now, or something that fits at least the melody of this song or the structure of this song? So that all comes into hand. And then how far do I want to challenge myself today? You know what I mean? I've had someone said remix Eminem's Nat, where he just kind of really snapped on. And I'm over here like, yeah, I would love to do that. Do I feel like I'm in a place where I just want to go Eminem kind of snap bars on you right now? Like, I have to be in that grind, that mode, that center. So
that's not something where you're just like, well, I've been having a pretty good last couple days at work. You know, I love my family. Easter was just yesterday. That's
Right,
cool. Like,
right.
yeah, let's get angry.
now
you
let's
know?
talk about how fuck the world, right?
Exactly,
No. So I really I think it comes down to how any song I make gets created to begin with. It's just how I feel in the moment. And every single time I go to make any song, it's about how I feel right then and there. And that's why I think every song changes by the song that I make. You know, this week you might get one that's like completely would belong on the B-side of an album back in the 80s, you know, the fucking cassette tape, and it's B-side, the shit that's not really popular. Like, that's, you know, you might get that this week, then you might get one that sounds like Juice WRLD's biggest hit, you know what I mean, as far as like tone goes or sonic sound. And then you might get one that's a straight acoustic song that I did with my buddy Ethan or Alex Bird or Riley Bird or something, you know what I mean? It just goes with how you feel, and I'm a kind of a poet at start of it all, you know what I mean? So I can't help but to write what's on my mind first and foremost.
So let me bring it back to something that might, like, I dabbled in rap a little bit here and there, and every now and then somebody would be like, well, we put out this remix album, or like some of them would be like a chopped and screwed album, which is like where they take the beat and they just really chop it up and just
slow it down and chop it.
Brutalize what the original mix of it all was and change it. So like, do you, I mean, that's another thing I'm going to ask you, I guess, like, is that something you ever think about, or is like, we're going to take the same exact concept, but we're going to slow it down a little bit and we're going to do it this way instead, or we're going to speed it up and make it a little bit more upbeat?
You know what's funny is that's how I started. My first ever bit of recording was on a cassette tape and an 8-track and all that, and that's how I got my beats, was taking albums that had a song with an intro on it of, you know, 2 to 4 to 6 measures. If I could get an 8 measure bit with no words, I was stoked, right? Yeah. So what I would do is I would sample. I would take that, I'd put it into my Cool Edit Pro DAW software. It was Cool Edit Pro is what it was called back then. And my Windows Vista, you know what I mean? And I put it in there, and I would take that, you know, 4 measures or whatever it was, and I would just loop it, but then I would change it, you know, whether I'm changing the pitch or I'm changing the speed of it, or I might even just create put like a flanger effect on it or some shit and see what happens, right? But no, that's literally how I started making my music, was doing that. It was just changing things up that way and just making it my own. And we still utilize that today, to be honest with you. There's, I mean, countless of cases that I could go on about, but yeah, we incorporate that almost into every single song, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I mean, for people that don't know, like, that's actually a really common thing in rap music, is people will take like a tiny little bar of something and they'll use that as like the basis, and then they'll be like, well, this is kind of like this other song that's completely different, and we're going to take a couple bars off of this and slam it in here too, maybe overlap them, maybe interchange them and make something completely new.
It's very common with hip hop. And I guess to just reiterate on how we use it nowadays we go off more like, we'll have a sound, we'll have, say, an instrumental, and then we'll literally change what we've had and worked on for however long, and just realize, well, it could be fresher if we just like drop a couple keys here, or drop a couple pitches here, and you know what I'm saying? And that's what I mean with how we still utilize that aspect to this day. But as far as sampling, no, we do not sample anything anymore, because in order to actually clear that, to distribute it, you can't anymore with samples. You know what I'm saying?
Like a certain date, like a prior date.
Well, it's more or less if they allow their masters to be sampled royalty free, is what it comes down to. It comes down to that artist saying, my masters are royalty free samples, to do whatever you want with them, which is non-existent in a lot of ways. Like, there's very few that exists.
And here's the other end of that. Even if they do give you that green light, sometimes a YouTube algorithm might be like, we don't know the difference between that, so we're just going to take it down, because they can figure out, like,
either way.
Yeah, and that's another reason, like, people are like, you should put music on your podcast. It's like, well, I would love to, but I don't want to get flagged by YouTube. And
you just hit 7 seconds at a time of a song.
Yeah, and I'm not monetizing any of this anyways. I'm like, my only money I get from this is literally from selling merch, you know, and I don't really sell much anyways. I just have, like, you know, hoodies and shirts, but it's just like, so I'm not like I'm making money on this anyways, but in the off chance I get the opportunity to later, I don't want to try and monetize something and have them just flag it and then take it down or whatever,
Absolutely.
So I totally get where you're coming from there, but it's also kind of cool to think about like the sampling thing. It's something that always blew my mind, and like every time that I would be listening to something that used a little sample of something in there, I'd just be like, where did this come from or whatever? And I mean, a lot of people will point out like, oh, well, Dr. Dre is the king of sampling stuff. We all get that or whatever. But like,
Kanye might be the king of sampling, but yeah,
but
go ahead.
But when I was sitting there thinking was Regulators, Warren G, and then I was like listening to Michael McDonald. That's that right? Yeah, I think it is. But it's the dude from the Doobie Brothers that sang in there. But like he sampled like the intro part on one of those songs. And it was just like, oh, you changed this 100%.
But
like,
it's so cool when you get to have that moment where you hear. Say you hear it in a rap song first. You hear this melody first, right? Yeah. But then when you hear the original, you go, oh my God, that's where it comes. It's such a cool thing. It's a cool thing.
Yeah.
It's like think about Mikey Clark when he redid "Summertime in Sweet Home Alabama" for Kid Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Took two rock songs, made it one song, the "Summertime" song for Kid Rock. Like that is insane to me, and I'm like, is that cheating? Is that cheating? You're like, yes, you took, it's like you took Werewolves in London.
Yep.
And then, Sweet Home Alabama. I'm just like, that's crazy to me. But, like, the way he did it, yes, you did take two noticeably genuine, like, songs, put them together, and made kind of this weird summertime feely song out of it. That's it. Yeah, it's good, which is crazy to me, but that's hip-hop.
Well, here's the other end of that. To the lay person, not that, like, the average music listener doesn't, and I'm not calling them ignorant or dumb or whatever, but, like, some people don't even know. They're like, oh, that song's awesome. And it's like, oh, yeah, this is actually just Sweet Home Alabama for the most part. And they're like, what? And it's like, oh, holy cow, I didn't even realize that, or like this is just Werewolves of London. They're like, oh, I caught the, Sweet Home Alabama. I didn't even know this was Werewolves of London in here or whatever,
Right, some people don't even know that.
Yeah, so that's another thing. If you write something that's kind of basic and you're just like, this sounds too much like this, don't undersell yourself because not everybody's gonna notice.
That's a fact, and most of the time, when you write it like that, to where you think and you're questioning that, like, oh, this is gonna be lame, or they're not even gonna get it, or whatever. Most of the time, that's the one that they all like the most.
Yeah, I look at that as like an easily digestible type thing, where it's like I'm not calling anything out here, but Sweet Home Alabama is just like a D, a C, and a G for like a D, D, C, G, like the whole song, and it's like that sounds pretty lame when you think about it, but it's just like it's way more palatable than like some super shreddy like Megadeth or something, because it's just people are just like, there's too many notes in here. This is too many notes.
Too much, but it's like or like Pantera, it's like listening to Dime play and shred on something, and it's like you can't even try to comprehend really what's going on. You're just getting it in. To us, to people like me, I'm like, oh, I love that. I'm like, oh my God, how's he soloing with feedback right now? That's awesome.
Totally.
Everyone else is like, oh no, just give me AC/DC. A, D, G. That's all I want. Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, that's another thing about, and I'm not, saying anything about any type of music, but like country music, probably the most popular music in the world, or at least in America. It generates some of the most money. It's like the most advertisable music out there and stuff like that. And you go look, it's like, how did you play this country song? Well, it's 4 chords, and it's like, what?
Yep.
It's super basic, but it's so palatable. So like that's another thing that comes down.
That's why when your music is palatable, that's when it can actually have a chance to grow.
Yeah, or transcend genres and give people the ability to be like, oh, I could sample some of this, or at least borrow a portion of this and then incorporate it into what I'm doing and completely change both things into something that's completely brand new. It'd be like saying like, I'm gonna make a pizza, and someone's like, "You didn't invent pizza sauce. You're cheating," And it's it's like, no. You see, what I'm doing here is I'm borrowing
ranch on it.
Yeah. So.
But I mean, that's the beauty of hip hop, is that's where it all started, was poetry over breakbeats.
Yeah.
100%. It started with sampling. It was disco era music, and they would take the DJ would take the part that the crowd danced the most to. When the crowd really got into it and said, "This is my favorite part," they would take those those little bit of measures, 4 to 8 measures, and they would just loop it. And that's where the Crayola crayon comes into play. Is like they would scratch their record with the Crayola mark, let them know that's where they reverse it back.
Yep.
Reverse it back. But they had 2 records with the same loop. But it's crazy to think that that's where it started, was 2 records creating the same loop to become a rapper. And now, where I started back in the early 2000s was doing it on my computer. But nowadays it's all handled on a beat machine. Like, just to go from the chapters to it, but I mean, my bad. I'm only bringing this up to run it back to meshing to so many different types of music to create a whole new sound and, genre more or less.
Yeah. I mean, like, once again, to people that, like I said, I'm not a rap, R&B, hip-hop type of guy. I do listen to some. I mean, I got into like Eminem back in the late 90s and stuff like everyone else did, and in the early 2000s, and I've listened to your Dr. Dre's and your everything else, the Chronic. Woo, I've listened to it a bazillion times. It's great stuff, but it's like, I always thought to myself, like, man, are these guys cheating? And it's like, no, they're not cheating. This is a different thing. And once again, it's like, it's like, oh, I built a go-kart. Like, you didn't make the engine from scratch. It's cheating. And it's like, no, it's not cheating, dude. It's not.
No, I mean, and how we started this whole podcast is I started with like almost telling myself I'm not a musician, because like as a rapper, I think we struggle with that in our own identity anyway. Is we kind of almost feel like we're cheating, you know what I mean, in a sense, because it's like I have my best friends, my biggest fans tell me, one of the, I love listening to you as a musician, as this and the other, and I'm like, I don't feel like a musician, to be honest with you. I feel like a poet maybe, or an artist or a performer, but for a rapper, I mean, I don't know, what I'm saying? As I'm saying, people tell me, no, don't do that to yourself. I'm over here like, well, I don't play an instrument. So it's like, how do I call myself a musician,
Yeah.
I'm going back to the cheating thing,
But I love the analogies we're coming up here, because I was just thinking, like, it's almost like I made the most ooey gooey best brownie in the world, and someone's like, you didn't invent brownies, you're not a baker, you're not a chef, that doesn't count. And it's like, no, I am. Like, oh, you just tweaked this recipe. Nobody else did it, so it's like, what?
Nobody else did that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's just the one thing. Like I said, I interview a lot of people who just play instruments and are only in bands and things like that. That's kind of the primary goal of this podcast. So if anybody's listening to this blindly and they're just like, that's cheating. No, it's not. It's not cheating. This is just the way it is. Like, and if you're saying this is cheating, then you might as well just delete all of rap out of history altogether and just write it off and just chuck it into the sun.
Like that. I mean, going back to whether it's the brownies or the go-kart or the rapper, I mean, I'll tell you like this, make the brownies the way they made them.
Yeah.
If it's cheating, then go ahead and make them same brownies.
Yeah.
If this rapping's
for 6 years,
right, if this rapping's cheating, then like go ahead and spit my verse for me real quick. Tell me how you can do that. And then like you got your breath control in pattern. Oh, you can jump up and down and keep your breath in check. Oh, you can do that? Then let me know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because like it's those kind of things.
How you're saying things the same. Do you have
your
you come to the
enunciation
same
on point?
attitude?
Is your syllable count so accurate that your pattern is inevitably perfect no matter what tempo you want to rap it to?
Yeah.
Like that kind of shit I don't think people realize. Like I write in such a way that my syllables, you could throw any tempo at me, I could rap the same 16 bar verse to you over any tempo. Don't be wrong, I might struggle once we get to like double time speed.
Yeah.
But like I do my syllables in such a way, in such a mathematical way in my writing format that I can put it anywhere at any time because the syllables hit to your measurements the way they should. You know what I mean? And
That's a good point. Here's another thing. Like when I kind of dabbled in rap here and there, a lot of people are just like, well, this guy's not a good rapper, blah, blah, whatever. I like Tech Nine just for the simple fact, exactly like you said, that guy can pan together different syllables and different beats with just his words in such a fashion where it's like, I don't know people that could do this on an instrument, let alone with just their voice. Right. And then combining lyrics that'll actually come out in the same way he does. I mean, if you want to think about it, it's like, well, we're doing all 16th here, and then all of a sudden it just breaks down into some triplets, and then it's into eighth notes and 16ths, and then he's like meshing it all together in some way.
And he's got lines that are holding like quadruple entendres in the midst of saying something conscious. Right. Like not only are you hitting rhyming patterns that hit in such a way, but then your metaphor turns around with like, oh, he actually brought up a road here, but then talked about two lines in the middle of a street here, and then talking about snorting cocaine on the third line, and then the fourth line he's talking about finding your path the right direction around a straight road. Yep. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm saying. It's just when you start thinking about lyrics that way, that's where I become an obsessive kind of like nut. Yeah. Where I'm like, I look at lyrics in such a obsessive way that that's why the greats like Tech and Eminem and the Jay-Z's and the KRS-Ones and the Rakims are so amazing to me, is because they were able to rhyme and use their patterns in such a way that is such a lost art and goes so under the radar a lot of the times. It's all about how can you bob your head and feel to this song, a lot of times. And don't be wrong, I get down with that too, but I'm a lover of the true art of hip hop, and that's the lyrical ability behind it.
You brought up another good point. Like with Tech Nine, that's a lot of people. If they know what Tech Nine is, they're just like, "Oh, you listen to drug rap," and it's like, well, if you actually listen to what he's saying, there's a lot of really
Not
deep
even
stuff.
Like,
There's
Future would be drug rap if you ask me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
it's just one of those things where it's a lot deeper than just the face value, and that's what a lot of people only look at it as face value, and they're like, this sucks, And it's like, but
that's
listen
why
to
he's
the
a
lyrics.
genius too, is because he said, watch me give you all this conscious substance, and then I'll do it in such a rhythmic way that even if you don't hear what I'm saying, what you hear is impressive.
Exactly.
And that's just a genius level of thinking. You know what I mean? Like, that's just taking it a step further and be like, okay, because I'm over here, I'm still striving to get there. So I might give you something that says, oh wow, that flow was insane, and then this song says, wow, that topic was touching. I don't know how to combine them yet, but we'll get there.
I mean, even thinking about like Eminem, probably one of the most palatable, rappers to, white kids in the Midwest like us or whatever. You think about that, he's written songs where it's just like, this is complete like when he was doing the Machine Gun Kelly, when they were doing the battle rapping, and then all of a sudden he wrote one that literally didn't make any sense. He just rhymed nonsense words with nonsense junk, and
about M?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Okay.
And that's where he's like,
if you want to open up another 10-minute conversation.
that's where I think he's kind of genius about that, where it's just like, I can rap about stuff and it sounds cool, and it's like not even really about anything. Honestly,
and then the fact that you even approach it like that is so awesome to me, because it's like that was the main, I think, overtake of his comeback to that is exactly what you just expressed to me. But what's crazy is when you really break down each one of those bars line for line, is he came back at MGK with such an elaborate, in-depth analogies and like metaphors that it's like, oh dude, you were shitting on him in such a personal level that the world couldn't even understand, because they, first of all, couldn't even hear quick enough, and second of all, don't even know probably the ins and outs of the beef enough to understand what you're really saying about, which is but that's why people say Kel's won, is because MGK came on the other end and said, I'm giving you nothing complex. Why do you wear sweatpants every day? Your beard's fucking weird. We're not used to that, Eminem. Like, he came with shit that was like, the whole world's gonna say, okay, I rock with that. It makes sense,
Yeah, it's so generic and easy to see on face value only that people are just like, oh, I get this,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. No, and look, they won though. They both won because we're over here talking about it.
Bingo, yeah. I mean,
so
that's honestly what it is. Time for you to start battle rapping with people from across town, Fort Dodge. Then no, I don't know.
I'm just too humble for it, man. I'm just too humble for it. I got too much love for everybody. Even if I tried to fake a beef, they'd call me on it.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, we've done that in our band too, where it's like, let's start an internet beef with another band, and then we'll just see what happens, And I mean, we stole that idea from a couple Chicago bands that did it, and they would.
It's a clout move,
It is, and then we would. It's like, well, now let's book a show together, and we'll call it, the Battle of the Two Greats or something, or whatever, and make people choose, even though no one's going to choose and nobody cares. But it's still one of those deals where it's like, let's try something new like this. So
the struggle.
Yeah. But, and that's another thing where I'm just throwing this out there. If anybody sees Three Finger Betting, the shit kickers, bad talking each other online, that's the whole basis behind any of that stuff. It's still kind of going on. I'm trying to squash it all now because nobody understands.
No, they hate each other. Hype it up.
Yeah.
Hype it up.
Well, that's the thing, though. Is like, if people don't know what you're doing, then it's just like they'll look at it and be like, "Man, these guys are dicks." Because
they're just kind of looking at it sideways.
Yeah.
Like, what?
There's so much hate on their platform.
Yeah, exactly. These guys are just hating each other. It's just
you're
mean,
right. That's when you got to level, like, where's your thinking at compared to where's your grind really stand at,
Yeah. Where are you actually aiming for something, or are you just doing something just to do it, too?
And also, it's a lot of trial and error we're in the Midwest shooting our shot every time we try a new method. So it's really like, does this one work? Does this one work? This one worked for some reason. I don't even get it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of that goes on too. Yeah, it's crazy. I do have I already got an hour covered in here, and I did have one other thing to give a shout out. Jesse had Cal, I think it's Anderson, is that his last name?
Cal Anderson, yeah.
He did some, rapping on one of Jesse's first singles that he ever put out as a country artist, Jesse Wilson. So the song was Come Back Home, and that's how I kind of, got introduced to Cal. And then I found out that you got a song called Story to Tell. It's a single, and that's got Cal on it as well. So it's like, oh, this is cool. It's like, I'm starting to see like this big
full circle.
It's all coming full circle all the way back around. It's really kind of neat.
Yeah, no, and me and Cal have, to be honest, me and Cal both been writing kind of side by side since like 5th grade. To be honest with you, we've known each other for that long, and kind of went our separate ways. Had a different peer environment. So, we weren't really in the same clique growing up. But as we've grown older, we actually started an album together, which is where that single Story to Tell comes from, is the birth of an album at the birth of COVID. We have a whole album based on quarantining, just sitting right now, and we're not doing anything with it. And I decided to release Story to Tell, going off that. And yeah, so I mean, Cal definitely works hard and worked alongside Jesse Wilson, introduced me to Jesse actually. And Jesse reached out to me recently around the same time, a little bit before you did, with a single that Jesse and I have coming out that I won't give too much information on, but it's a song for the Dodge, and it hits home to at least me and everyone I've showed it to. So I'm sure it's gonna hit home to a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, let's also touch back on the fact on your YouTube channels, you can find Story to Tell, the single. There's a video with it. It's on YouTube, as well as
Story to Tell. There's not a video to Story to Tell.
There's all day.
All Day.
Yeah, that's the one I was. That's
Say
the one I
Less,
watched.
and then Ethan Cain was Straight Outrageous that just dropped on April 1st.
I'm gonna have to check that out. I might have overlooked that one.
It just dropped. It just dropped.
Ethan says it's the best. It's hot fire.
The best. It is. Let's just say Late Street is definitely moving on to trying to step the game up for when it comes to Iowa hip hop and what's going on. We're trying to step the game up, and I think doing a pretty damn good job of it. We got Havoc the Addict behind the camera on these videos coming up. And on the topic of videos, I just want to announce, along with the shows we talked about May 30th, we will be shooting a music video for a solo song of mine. That's 100% for the city, so I'm gonna need y'all to really ride heavy for that one. That'll be a good time.
Nice, yeah. And all these music videos can be found on your YouTube channel, James Tyler.
Well, they can be found on James Tyler Music YouTube, or they can be found at Ethan Cain on YouTube.
Snap.
So, but to be honest, you look up any page, whether it's Late Street, Ethan Cain Music, or James Tyler Music, we are all linked. All our pages are linked together, so where you can find one of us, you can find all of us.
Nice. That's a good way to do it.
We try to make it easy. I mean,
yep.
It's dummy proof. Our marketing is dummy proof. I make sure of it.
Yeah. So
one door you open, there's 3 over here that will take you back to this one.
yeah,
That's right.
That's a good way of putting it, though. Like, it's almost like one of those things where, like you said, as soon as you open, it's like, oh, what's over here? And it's like, oh, it's also over there, over here. I didn't know it was over here. And then you get over to this other channel, and you're like, there's other stuff here I didn't even know about.
Right.
So you start.
And if you dig deep enough, I mean, you can find music from ours that go all the way back to 2011, 2010, 2009. Like we have,
Oh my God,
and it's still on YouTube, and it's still linked to our channels. But we make the older stuff a little bit harder to find on purpose. Because it's not the proudest things we want to go show, but we leave them out there because it's our growth. It's all a part of who we are.
Exactly.
So,
Well, that's the other thing is you don't want to just take it down. You actually put the work in to do it, but you also want your best stuff to be out there front and center. Yep.
Absolutely.
So for anybody that's like, I don't want to go searching online, it's too hard to search for stuff. Scroll in the description sections. I'll have links down below. Just start clicking them and like, subscribe, share, retweet, poke.
That's right.
All the other stuff. So. We got over an hour covered in here, and I think we got everything that I wrote down. You want to give your website another shout out just to make sure we got that covered?
Just to round it all about, we just launched the new website. We got Ethan Cain, James Tyler, co-owners of Deuce Block Clothing, and it's deuceblockclothing.com, DEUCEBLOCK clothing.com.
Yeah, so the link's down below. Once again, if you're too lazy to type it in, it's the link's down below. So I'll put it down there. It doesn't matter where you're listening to this; it's in the description section. So, what kind of stuff can they find there?
At Deuce Block Clothing, you can find our latest merchandise from Lake Street. You can find the Deuce Block series, which will change by the season. And right now, we're doing the Baseball Dirty Royal series. So that's really cool. You can find some shot glasses, which are a limited time. Will not be there forever. There's only 36 of them to grab, and they're going quick already. So yeah, I mean, we got some Lake Street merch, and then from there you can find the links to Ethan Cain anywhere you want to find them. You can find links to Lake Street anywhere you want to find us, and you can find links to James Tyler anywhere you want to find me. So pretty much the .com is the one-stop shop to get anything and everything local hip hop. Lake Street, Ethan Cain, James Tyler.
That link is going to be on the top then. So if anybody wants to find it, that's where you got to go.
That's where it's at.
Otherwise, if you're specifically looking for something, just scroll down farther and click a different link. But if go to the website, that's where everything goes to. I've got a really basic website for Audible Farm, but I found it actually works out really well.
It's a great tool.
Mine's only a single page. I used a free builder. I didn't want to pay any extra money. All I did was pay for the domain and use the free builder that was available to me, and it was just it should be good enough. And actually, it
is
works
good enough.
It works pretty well.
Exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
If I told you the truth about the website that I built for us, it's the hardest thing I did was the meta description.
Yeah.
That was the hardest thing I did. That was because it took studying to be like, let's get us to get at the top of Google search.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is. And that's probably the hardest thing I had to do for that website.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'll say that. I mean, I went to school for that originally, like 15 years ago, and I didn't finish school then, but I went back and finished school. Whatever.
Right.
Thanks, Mom, for sending me back to school.
Thanks,
but,
Mom.
Yeah, but you know, it is, you know, bands, if you want a website, it really doesn't cost a ton of money. You know,
No.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, like maybe $100 a year if you want to spend a lot of money.
I'll tell you what,
Less
if you
than
want to,
that if you don't, you
if
know,
you really want to just like start the process of like legitimizing your business or your brand.
Again, what was that word?
I fucked it up. I know I did. If you want to start making your brand or anything a little more official, then all you need to do, I mean, not, excuse me, you just fucked me all up. It's all right. Basically, but no, it's really not that much, but it is, you know, I mean, we spent probably about $2 or $3 grand in the past few months on just making everything as official as we possibly can, paying for our subscriptions, paying for our domain names, and all that. You know what I mean? Like, it's a couple grand startup if you do it to the full ins and outs.
Yep.
But even if you, I mean, it goes back to what we talked about consistently in this is what level are you trying to take it to? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? What are you really standing with it? Because you can spend, like you said, $200 a year can get you a domain name and a platform of which you want to do whatever you're doing on. Like, you can do that with $200.
Oh yeah, easy as pie. I mean, I own 2 domains for Audible Farm because I was originally gonna do, like, you know, go whole hog on it, and then I was just like, man, I'm not making any money on this, so I was like, it's kind of not worth it to, you know.
Well, what you put in is what you get back, and we all know that saying. But I'll tell you what, I think it smacked us both in the face this past few months harder than ever. Is, like I said, we put in a few grand in the past few months into this business, and I'm not gonna give any numbers away, but let's just say Lake Street's sitting all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a good feeling. It's like, okay, wow, we really do have to invest to make, but
Well, it's like we waited,
once you do,
you know, we waited 10 years trying to put it all together and thinking we were marketing ourselves right and doing this whole thing right, but putting money in, smaller sums of money in the wrong places, to now where we put the money in the right place and actually are seeing a return come back to us like, wow, well, we really were doing this wrong for so long.
wrong for a long time.
You know, that comes back to if you look professional, if you act professional, if you want to do it, you got to be professional. You can't just.
That's right.
And nothing against, like, you can't just have like some paint shop. I mean, like, that's where I come in. Like, I paid for the logo for Audible Farm. Why? Because I wanted it to look good. I could have made one, but it would have looked like garbage and people wouldn't have taken it.
It would have looked like you made one.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Microsoft Paint can only do so much. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
that there's anything wrong with that. You know, but that's the other deal is, like, pay an artist to make your art. If you can't make art, please pay an artist. You know,
Well, pay an artist, and it's great to outsource anyway. I mean, when you
Networking.
I was just going to say, when you network and you outsource for your artwork and any kind of help like that, not only are you putting your brand and your name within the hands of somebody else who is going to naturally take it 5 to 10 to 20 people further than you could have.
Yeah.
But it's just network at the end of the day, and you're building relationships, and relationships are important. I'll tell you what, we've built relationships in our time doing this. King ISO, who we're opening up for in Des Moines, right? We just 5 years ago, when I want to put his information on blast, but let's just say 5 years ago, we were on the same platform, opening up at the same venues, right next to each other, hanging out, smoking and drinking in the parking lot.
Yep.
You know, and that networking, that relationship, we kind of just let dwindle away. But it just goes to show where it's like you never really know what you gotta network with people, you gotta stay in touch with people, not only to benefit yourself, but just you never know where things are gonna go, and you never know what life has in store. And the more you just sit here and kind of stay in yourself and cocoon up, you're always at the bottom of the list at that point.
Dude, it does help. I mean, that's something I know I'm not the only podcast game doing what I'm doing in Iowa, but the other thing is I reached out to those guys and said, hey, you know, I like what you're doing. Check my stuff out. And then we started talking about each other. I got links to them on the bottom of my website. So if anybody likes what I got going on, they can go find some other stuff, what's going on, you know. And I had somebody from the Des Moines Music Coalition hit me up and they said, do you know anything about this band from the 90s? And I was like, no, I don't. But I mean, I know some places where I could search around and find it.
Right.
And the weirdest part about it was like some band from Southern California. They're like, well, when we were kids, we saw this band when we were in Iowa and we want to find their album. So I searched and searched and searched. And sure enough, on the Iowa basement tapes, I found a copy of the album, you know, and the band is all defunct and he got the permission to put it up there for free. So
That's
it was like,
awesome.
And they were like, oh, we want to find the CD. It's like, well, it's right here. You can just download the whole thing and it's free. And the band is giving it it away now because it's
Well, yeah.
it's 30 years old and
But
you know
that's
nobody
the thing
cares
about,
anymore. So
that's the craziest thing about streaming now more than ever is, as a big point I've been making to him too, is that we could be putting all this work right now, right?
Mhm.
5 years from now, it didn't pay off. We wrap it up, right? But then let's say 15 years from now, all of a sudden they find Late Street. Because it's always going to be there. That's the thing about the media streaming. It's always going to be there. And it's like you never really know. Like we could be 50 years old before Late Street all of a sudden makes, like, all the world loves it for some reason.
yeah,
Like,
someone starts remixing your stuff.
Someone found it, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
but I think that's something I think every starving artist needs to keep in mind right now in this day and age is, what you make now is like do take the time. If you're serious about it in any sense, do take the time to brand it right, craft it right, mix it right, get a quality product. Take that time, because even if you're just doing it for the love of it, spur of the moment, or long term, you'd never know when or what song it's going to be, or when that song is really going to take traction.
That's true. That's 100% true.
You have to just, it's all part of the process. And we could keep talking forever, man. I know we got to start wrapping this up.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually really good, because if we got any extra stuff we want to talk about, we can talk more. And, you know, I've been sitting down here today with James Tyler. Ethan Cain kind of came in about halfway through, so maybe I'll sit down with Ethan Cain, do a podcast, and James Tyler will come in halfway through and sit down. And,
Needs to happen.
But, I mean, this is actually pretty cool to have Ethan here and be like, it's almost like the Andy Dick to the Conan O'Brien, you know, or
I mean,
Andy Richter
straight
to the
up,
Conan O'Brien,
I'm over here building the foundation, and this is the architect. You know what I mean? I make the bones work, and he makes that shit look flairful and good. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so, yeah, it takes two, baby. You know. So,
Yeah,
I gotta say thanks to both of you guys for joining me on the podcast. Check out all the links down below. Appreciate it. I'm gonna hand the mic over here real quick.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
No, thank you.
Oh, baby. I was really glad that we actually got to sit down with James Tyler. Like I said, I play some music with Jesse Wilson, and James is. I'm teasing this out there again. James is going to be, on one of his singles that's hopefully coming out here pretty soon. So we'll check that out. If you're looking for all of the Late Street music information, go down below and click on the links. There's some nicely organized links to their website, as well as the link trees for each individual. For not just James, but also for Ethan Cain. So check it out, James Tyler and Ethan Cain of Late Street. I had a great time sitting down talking with these guys. They're working hard. James is putting in a lot of crazy hours and time into the stuff that a lot of people don't think about when they think about, making music. He's putting in that behind the scenes work, and that's something that's pretty important, quite honestly. I think we could all do a little bit better job of that. And I mean, I bet even James would say, he could probably do a better job at it. But he's grinding away and he's doing it. And that's one of the coolest parts about sitting down talking with these guys, is finding out exactly how much work is being put on behind the scenes in order to make the music, get it to people's ears and things like that. So hats off to James for doing all that hard work. And also hats off to Ethan for jumping in about halfway through the podcast and giving us a few quips and a little bits of stuff here and there. It's fun when people do that kind of stuff, and I was a little worried because I only had 2 mics and a little portable setup for this, but we actually made it work pretty well. I listened back to some of the audio, and it actually flowed pretty well. So I'm happy that we got to sit down and talk with both of those guys. I'm glad, they sat down and made a time work for me too, because it's not always easy to find people that are willing to take the time out of their day to sit down and talk with me. So every time somebody does, I'm really, really happy, and I hope you guys, as the listeners, are also happy that we got this one done, because like I said, there's a couple fun guys that are doing a lot of work, quite honestly. I got one of their cool Late Street shirts. These puppies are soft. These puppies are awesome. So check those out too. The merch is all available. You can just scroll down and click on the links in the description section and find places to go find the merch and everything else. I got to see their hoodies. Their hoodies are amazingly soft as well. They're not just your average everyday hoodie. So if you guys are looking for merch for bands and things like that, hit up Late Street. They got some crazy stuff going on, and like I said, they're working really hard. So hats off to those guys for putting in all of that. Like I said, the behind the scenes work. It's not always easy, and it's kind of like the boring part maybe of doing music, but they're doing it, and once again, hats off to them for doing it. If merch is your thing and you've already got your Late Street shirt, go to audiblefarm.com or shop.audiblefarm.com and you can find yourself some Audible Farm merch. We've got hoodies, we've got t-shirts. The hoodies are running low, but I do have a pretty decent stack of t-shirts hanging out over here. So if anybody's looking for t-shirts, we've got those as well. There's also stickers. If you're a sticker fiend, we got stickers till Who Laid the Rail. So if you guys are looking for stickers, hit us up. buy some stickers. And if non-monetary support is something that's more your style, then go to YouTube and click like, and subscribe to the channel, like the Facebook page, share it. That's some of the easiest, best ways you can support somebody non-monetarily. Don't just do it for me. Do it for all the guests that I have on the podcast. Share the episodes, share their information, share their stuff. It makes me feel really good every time I see somebody sharing some of this stuff. So I appreciate it. There's been a lot of people hopping over and subscribing to the YouTube channel lately. So I got to say thanks once again for that. I really appreciate that. There's all sorts of goofy stuff over there on the YouTube channel. We've got the audio versions of this. We've also got little video clips. There's also, other types of stuff that like live band videos that I've recorded over the years and things like that all over on the YouTube channel. So check it out. If you're looking for full video versions of the podcast, they're available on Patreon, patreon.com/audiblefarm. It only costs $1 a month. So if you guys are looking for video versions of this and you're looking to pitch me $1, it's that easy. $1 a month. It's $12 a year. You're going to get about 50 episodes. I mean, each episode is going to cost you about $0.25. So that's not too much in my opinion if you're looking to do a little monetary support. Otherwise, like I said, just like, subscribe, and share, and that's the easiest thing you can do to, pass the buck along. And I really appreciate everything that everybody's doing, all the listening you're doing, all the people buying the merch, all the people saying something to me at the shows I go to, like, you're that podcast guy, and it's like, yeah, I am that podcast guy. So I appreciate it. I appreciate all the notoriety I'm getting. So thank you guys very much for all that. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Once again, I just gotta say thanks again to James Tyler and even Ethan Cain for popping in about halfway through the episode. It was tons of fun to sit down and talk with you guys. Check out Late Street's links down below, and if you scroll down even farther, you can check out the Audible Farm links. I'll be back next week with another awesome guest. Hope you guys enjoy it. Peace.